I've got 8 random questions here. You get 3 rolls on the tower, and whatever you roll, that's where we start.
I like that your dice is a prism. I didn't know that. You don't know from watching it on the TV. Okay.
You know the rules. All right. Number 2. Oh, I love this question.
Nervous, actually.
This one is scene swap. If you could swap roles with anyone in any Walking Dead show just to play one specific scene of theirs, who would you choose and why?
I think it would be fun too. I knew this is one of the questions that could come, and it is not one of the answers that I started just thinking of the whole series and then getting lost.
There's a lot
before finding an answer. Yeah, but I think the stuff from the beginning of the show is really stimulating to me, like season 1 and 2 before I was on the show, because I watched it as a fan, and Rick waking up in the hospital and just the quiet of waking up from a coma and realizing the world had changed. And when I try to get back to like the heart of what opportunity we have in the story, I always think about the first season, you know? I always think about like you said, when you like go back to you like seeing New York shows and the destruction of New York, because it's like, wow, what would it really be like? But that scene is so seminal and stimulating, and I think that would be.
It's so grounded and simple, but also deep, because it's just like such a deeply personal moment that anyone could be like, what if I woke up and I was alone?
Ooh,
it's chilling.
Yes,
I still think about it all these years later.
Yeah. All
right.
Yeah.
Second roll on the tower.
Do it.
Number 8.
Oh, like
yay. This is a fun one. If you've watched recent episodes, this keeps coming up, and I love it. It's everyday things. I want to know the seemingly small, like everyday thing that human beings do that is most difficult for you to replicate on set as an actor.
Okay. In a scene?
So in a scene, we always give the examples like fake sneeze, fake waking up, something
I
like
saw
that.
Matthew Lillard's fake sneeze, and it was so great.
Who did you say?
Matthew Lillard's.
He can do anything. He can do anything.
It was perfect. He really can.
I know.
Yeah. That's why I like your show, because it's just like you see these like sides of people that you didn't expect and know, and anyway.
Just always the goal. I
I
appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you watching before you come here too. That's really nice to know.
Yes, very much. So my fake thing that you'd have to sneezing is a good one. Being surprised.
What techniques do you do to spark surprise?
I think focus on whatever you're doing, so that when something comes, the more you can get lost. That's actually, I guess, a similar technique to any scene prep, or like just trying to be in the moment, forget you're on set, forget that things are so technical, or the ones on set that are hard. Oh no, that was another one. Waking up, which I had to do recently, or waking up from being either hit in the head or falling asleep or being in a fight coma. But I'm talking about at work. Just kidding. That one's hard, because it's usually like the coolest shots are when things are right up in your face, and it's not how it is.
Waking up and falling asleep.
Yes.
I always think about those.
Not twitching, not doing that like eyeball.
Being asleep.
Yeah.
I get very hung up on that. I get very hung up on like continuity of like someone drinking a drink too, and the level going up and down.
A cigarette switching fingers. There's things. And then you just wish you could unsee it, because you just want to be. But then I always thought it was because I'm an actor and I'm in the business, but everybody notices those
Everybody
things.
sees it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why IMDb has a not the trivia page, but it's like goofs and something, and it's just it's like a bunch of like silly continuity things that doesn't actually impact the experience, but once you clock it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
It's not
true.
a Starbucks cup on set, so that's good.
Yeah. That was the Game of Thrones thing.
I do remember that one.
Yeah.
All right, third and final roll
cool,
before we get
cool.
to the meat of the conversation.
Number 2 again.
You
Should
get
I
to go again, yeah.
Or come up with a new answer.
6. All right, what do we got for number 6? Oh, 6 is a set vice. Do you have an on-set vice, something like a food or an activity that you turn to power through a tough day?
This year, I think I missed my vices. It was a much busier year, and I got to the end of it, and I thought, wait, what do I do when I'm bored? Because it used to be it's so often such a big part of being an actor is the in-betweens, and you either stay. You don't want to be too busy that you get tired, and too unoccupied that you don't get tired. But my set vice is probably just too much coffee. It's too much coffee. It's so nice to drink it, and then you're too amped to have it. But chatting is another one.
That's a good.
I love
just
just floating around and chatting and hanging out. And in Boston, the best set vice, I cannot believe I forgot this, is ping pong, which I'd never experienced as an on-set option before, and that's what we do.
That's such a good idea.
I know. Because you just get the boost you get the adrenaline boost, and then you get to hang with your crew.
But it's not too extreme.
It's not too extreme.
Oh,
You're
I
not
love
thinking.
that
You're not
idea.
talking about the work, and it's great.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Ladies Night. Lauren Cohan, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
I'm so happy to be here, I have to tell you.
Admittedly, I hadn't covered Walking Dead a whole lot over the course of my career, but I do remember one of my very, very first New York Comic-Cons. It was a challenge for me at the place that I was in my career to get in the room, specifically Madison Square Garden. And I'd just like to see how the universe has evolved since.
Yeah.
And to be sitting here with you now having a long form conversation is something special.
I wanna know where you were in your career at that moment. I remember that it's like sometimes the Comic-Cons run into each other.
Oh, they do.
You know? And that one was one of the internet breaking Comic-Cons as far as I remember, because it was it was MSG, and it was a big time for the show.
Why do I want to say, I'm probably going to get the year wrong now, but I want to say it was like 2014 or something.
If you say that, I'm going to agree with you, because it would be a guess on my part.
You know, when you have a memory and the way you picture the entire memory is with one still photo.
Yes.
All I picture is me, one of my colleagues, and someone dressed up as a walker right behind us. And that's my most vivid memory of that day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's just one shot of it.
No, but it's funny. And then it's it's kind of sometimes it's I see a picture and I build a memory around the picture. Sometimes it's a mental snapshot, or the way a friend of mine talked about this. But you have these little slices of life that color huge chapters, and that's the standout. I mean, obviously that's how our brains work.
Admittedly, I've been thinking about this while watching Dead City, because it's one of the shows that I think digs deepest into the idea of your characters remembering things a certain way, and do you want to recreate that image, what you had before, or is forging a new path forward for folks who never had that experience the better way to go about it?
Yeah, it's such a I hate using the word deep. It sounds like dramatic, but it's such a now I'm just going to use no word. But there's the unpacking of why we remember things a certain way, and then where you are at a different moment in your life and how you'll reflect on it, and how each experience is going to change and inform your recollections. And I think it's I always try to do this thing where I will concisely encapsulate something about the show or the character or something. I guess this is my way of saying I'm glad this is a longer form conversation, because they are not easy to pack into a little thing.
What is the movie you saw, the performance you saw, a personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor?
I remember a performance once I was pursuing acting, and I now attribute that to why I've continued acting, and it's Jenna Rollins in A Woman Under the Influence. And I can't even think about it without feeling
the amount of people I've had come in here
and
give that exact.
Okay,
I love it too.
Yeah,
it's just as someone who really loves film and television and the impact that storytelling can have, in addition to just being pure entertainment, is really something special. To see the ripple effect that movie and that performance has had, and all the wonderful people it's put in this room, it's it really is something special.
Yeah. And I think as time has gone on too, even in this moment, I'm sort of feeling seeing the line between she's able to do just like there's like the danger in it, sort of, the danger in going to those places, the danger in inhabiting that part of your brain that allows you to bring it to the screen, and being comforted by like it can be a mentally, I don't want to say it's not a mentally dangerous place, but it's like you blur the lines, and I think that I always remember sort of the leap that you get to take, and it's a unique job because it's required and allowed, but then all the work you do to sort of make it, pull it back in or take care after. That's a very weird answer.
I think about that a lot, though. I think that's one of the many reasons why I admire actors and their craft so much, is because with each and every role, you give part of yourself. It's not just like a day and time thing, but I feel like, I don't know, deep down, there's something. And also headspace-wise, you are giving like a slice of that to the character you're playing. And when it's a heavier role, that can be a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even like putting myself in dark headspaces when I have to explore my own shit, let alone another character's.
Yeah, it's funny. And like, because you can have sort of like, you can do those explorations and have great aha moments, or you could get into something. And I ask myself that all the time. Like, do I need to, and then you just actively like run towards the light stuff after, between, or whatever. But yeah, anyway.
I don't know if you've had this experience, but just because I had someone on recently who kind of explained the evolution of their process this way, did you ever have a moment where, I guess, figuring out where to draw the line in that respect became clear, where you figured out like how far to go and where not to go any further in order to be able to pull yourself back safely from a darker headspace?
Yeah, I think the more I have talked to my peers about it, the more I've felt comfortable with the stuff that hurts but is worth it, and the more I've been sort of fortified to draw the line. And it used to be such a sort of insular process, and I didn't talk to people as much about it, and I didn't like kind of like, even though the irony is we didn't talk about it on The Walking Dead, but we all kind of did it in the early years and in, the meat of the mothership show. So you always felt kind of like a safety net because we all like went to that place together and everything. But the process, now today I need more coffee. I didn't have enough coffee. No, just kidding. But we'll come back to it, this thread that kind of escaped me for a second.
I gotcha. Yeah. A big thing with you that I wanted to hit was studying your craft in school. I got two sections I want to hit. First, you got a BA in drama and also English Lit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why the combination of the two? And also, when you first started those programs, how did you picture using those degrees after the fact?
It was so funny. So even when you said about the performance that first inspired me and everything, when I was younger, I moved to England when I was 13, and there's a show that's called Blue Peter, and it's like a kids' educational show, and the hosts on it are just like wholesome and happy, but it's fun, and it has like a British sense of humor, and it has all these things. And that was when I was like a young adult or teenager. I always wanted to do that show. I wanted to host that show, and it just seemed like such an engaging. I think moving country when I was young, my parents divorced. I was a kid among many adults for a long time, and I think this idea of like finding ways to relate to many people, or like on a bigger scale. I don't know what this is. People have said wiser things about why we are or where we are than this, but I remember that being compelling. And then I thought about journalism, and I went to school and I studied English Lit and English Lit psychology, and performing arts was sort of in England it's a bit different. You go to sixth form when you're 15, and 15 and 16 is sixth form, so you already have to choose 3 subjects at 15, and that's obviously challenging because you're sort of navigating what you want to do or what you care about. Yeah, totally. And so, but you're also like, okay, cool. Then those were broad enough, soft subjects. And I love and I laugh because like all of it comes into play, obviously, in what I do now. But I loved English Lit and I loved Shakespeare. And then I auditioned when I was in college, and then I went into just performing arts in English. And I dropped the psychology piece when I was in college. But and then I auditioned. And that's really when like the love of drama came about, because I did consider an academic career, and nobody in my family had grown up to be a performer, but everybody was really emotionally intelligent. A lot of people are emotionally intelligent, but like very creative and eccentric. And yet performing did never seem like a practical thing obviously. So that was good. And then I just got really good roles in plays that I auditioned for, and suddenly something just like sparked and woke up in me, and it felt like my whole self could be wholly unified in playing a role in a way that maybe my outside of on stage self didn't feel. And then I just was so hooked. I was so addicted. It was so thrilling. And
what a beautiful way to articulate that. I feel like I could feel it as you just described it. And now I'm going to veer from like that beautiful crafts perspective to the business side of it, because one of the other things that I was reading is you co-founded a theater company and did like a traveling performance. And that's where you found an agent. And that's like one of the most difficult things for anybody first starting in this field. So I guess to hit it from two sides, what was it like finding an agent, but also not necessarily feeling the pressure like I found one, I got to go with them, and overlooking how maybe that person suited what you wanted to do?
Yeah. God, I love the way you ask questions.
That one felt a little wordy to me. I'm glad it came across clearly enough.
It helped. As you were asking, it was like these little... this little slideshow of that period of my life was like skimming through my brain, because when I was 16 or something, I went to this thing is called the Clothes Show, and it's like in Manchester, and it's like where there's like fashion students put their designs on catwalks, and it's like a convention, like a fashion convention type thing. And when I was younger, I was incredibly bony and very, very slim, and people were like, oh, you should try modeling, whatever. And I went with a friend to the clothes show, and they're like, there's agents there and they spot people, and if you get spotted, it's great. And I might have been 17. Anyway, I had odd jobs, whatever, and I went and I did this thing, and I got spotted by a modeling agent, and I started to do catalog modeling, and it was amazing because it paid my way through college, and I didn't come out of school with debt. I didn't particularly like modeling at all, and it ironically gave me so many like body issues. It just was like it wasn't for me, and that's fine. But it did a lot for me in terms of like financial independence, and it was like a lot of validation and things that an insecure 16, 17-year-old was like, okay, and whatever. This is a very weird answer. But anyway, so I did that, and then that modeling agent introduced me to an acting agent. And that acting agent they were in London, and I finished school and I had done these plays, and we went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with a play that we had done, and we took Pygmalion, and we had this module called Exploding the Canon, where you just sort of subvert the whole premise of a play. And we had so much fun doing it, because the best of that, as anybody knows who like does theater, who like loves the arts, is like we were on a shoestring budget. We were all living together. We were doing anything we could to promote our show and spend no money doing it. And you're up every day, and then you're out in the streets like acting out scenes from your play, and through the city of Edinburgh, and just like doing everything you can. It was awesome. And then during that time, I met this other acting agent, and she was like, okay, cool. But I also applied for drama school, and that's what I thought I would do. Like, you don't become a real professional actor unless you go to drama school. And I had the need for that validation. And then this agent said, well, look, start auditioning for stuff. If you book something, just postpone your drama school career. And then I ended up booking something, and it was a good chain of jobs, and I didn't end up going. But she didn't want me to move to LA, I remember. And I did move to LA anyway. And
I have to follow up on that.
Yeah,
what gave you the confidence that LA was the right move for you at that point?
I think I'm American, right? I'm English. I had spent this time in the UK, and I felt like I associated with it very strongly, but there was a certain kind of shine to LA. I'd come out here. My aunt lives here. And I was enamored with like the difference and the excitement. And I came out for one pilot season, and there was just so many auditions, and it was so full. And nothing came of it. I think the first pilot season I came. Anyway, so I went back to England, and this agent was like, "Don't go to LA. You'll just become a TV actress. Here you could be a star." And here I am, a TV person, but with a lot of success and great. You never know which ways your life will have gone or whatever. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this answer. But
a TV empire of all things.
A TV empire.
Too. My God.
Yeah. But it was interesting. I mean, it's like definitely one of those things I always look back on. I'm like, who knows what would have been. But yeah, I felt, and then I spent 10 years just going between England and the UK. And then I was in the UK when I booked Walking Dead. Yeah.
Earlier in that answer, you said you booked something that kind of like triggered a chain effect, and you got a bunch. I'm assuming that was Supernatural.
No, I booked a movie. It was funny. I booked 2 jobs at the same time. One was on a children's TV. It wasn't a children's TV show, but it was a children's TV show. It's called Basil Brush, and it was like it was a comedic role playing an American who moved into an apartment building with a bunch of puppets, and it was so funny. And
sounds delightful.
It was my dream role, and at the same time, I booked a feature film, and it was the lead in the feature film. And I was so inexperienced. I was like, "Hold on, is this?" This is like, and I didn't even conceptualize that this was the lead female in the film until I got there, and I realized what a responsibility and what a huge thing it was. I know that sounds strange to say, but like I just didn't. I mean, it was a film about Alexander the Great, and I was this fictitious love interest to him. And so she wasn't the lead in the movie. This is not a helpful answer. It doesn't matter. I felt like I learned so much.
Stop judging your answers.
I do that.
Stop doing that.
I know.
That, I mean, the whole point of Ladies' Night is always to like sit back and relax.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like what you were saying before. I love the idea of being able to like in the moment just relax and like rethink the steps and just roll with whatever thread comes to your mind at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
those are the kinds of conversations that fill me up, and I feel like you're crushing it right now.
Okay.
I mean it.
I'll relax.
So that was one of the first lead roles. I did want to go to Supernatural and then what came after, because there's a lot of things here that fascinate me.
I'm sure.
With Supernatural in particular, that was your first time doing a multi-episode run of a TV series.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine when something like that happens, it sets certain expectations, certain foundations, teaches you certain lessons.
Yeah.
So what did you pick up making Supernatural that maybe informed the decisions you made after?
Oh, it's so good. For some reason, the first thing that comes into my mind is professionalism, because I joined that show and I remember from arriving on set, meeting everybody, doing a wardrobe fitting, meeting the guys, meeting Eric Kripke. I just felt like it was a well-oiled machine. It knew what it was. I felt very grateful to be there. I knew it was a special opportunity. It's always like something happens, you're excited, you get there, and then you're like, whoa. That was like, this is life-changing. This is a big moment. And I had sort of like just gotten settled in LA, and then went up to Vancouver and did that. So it was seminal. I mean, it was a big responsibility. It was a longer arc on a show. It was playing a baddie. So I had this like, I was navigating, enjoying being a baddie. And what else is there to say about it? I think I knew it was a fun show. I knew it was a big deal,
That fan
I
base.
never knew it would go. You never know any of the shows will go as long as they go. The fan base,
It's something. I mean, both of yours really. I've only recently got into the convention scene beyond, like San Diego and New York, which are wonderful conventions. But for the press, at least, it feels more like a marketing machine. And I've just started exploring the fan-leaning conventions, where the whole point is about, getting to meet the person that you admire, that made the thing you loved, and seeing the effect that Supernatural and Walking Dead in particular have had on people in that space that's like next level special stuff.
It's hugely stuff. And it's the community of something, and the fact that it can go for, it goes for like a whole chapter of your teenhood, adulthood, and then it never leaves you. It's just like, because you spent the times going through these feelings and these stories with these people. Man, it's like epic.
It really is.
It's really, yeah.
I can add another show to that list to build your CW section of the interview right now, Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
And then also I was reading about the pilot for Heavenly that you did. With that, the thing that I'm curious about, because I feel like I've had a lot of guests on this show who talk about this, mainly from the Disney perspective. I've never really delved into this when it comes to the CW. But when you do a show like Supernatural and it goes well, does that kind of like kick open the door to more CW opportunities? Do you then feel like you're like part of that family in a sense?
Yeah, you do. I do. And I remember feeling like I was maybe older than the audience for the Vampire Diaries. I think I was like, well, I was also older than the characters in that show, in the storyline of that. And yet I knew it was like, the beauty of that show was how emotional and epic the storylines are. And I met someone the other day, where were we? It was an interaction in public, and I just trying to remember where it was, but it was like they were recalling the scene when Rose dies and the thing. And I just thought so fondly back on how, I don't know, like what, I'm trying to think what that show was for me. It must have been My So-Called Life. Like, and it wasn't Supernatural. It wasn't genre, but it was like, gosh, it's so interesting doing this because my brain just then went to like me watching My So-Called Life and like what age I was and anyway.
I get it.
Yeah.
So, in all honesty, whenever I'm sitting in this seat, I feel like I'm hanging on for dear life all the time. Like sometimes I'll be saying a question and I'll get halfway through and I'll be like, it's a really good question. Don't fuck it up. And all of a sudden my mind will veer down a different path and I won't be able to recover.
You know what else is funny is like I sometimes, you said a second ago, like don't judge your answers, whatever. It's like when I start thinking about something, all these other little things start happening where it's like my actor brain goes like into create the little bubble or create the installation. So to like speak it, it's like it breaks the mist or something.
I get that.
I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's fun. It's fun what's happening. I'm just sharing.
It's another reason why I like sitting in this seat. I do find it to be a fascinating art from both sides to make these kinds of conversations not necessarily like burst the bubble, but enhance the experience.
Yeah.
And then also I'm fascinated by any actor who can articulate how they do their craft because my brain can't compute how you do what you do. And I feel like sometimes it's difficult to put into words like steps to act.
It's wild, isn't it? Because it doesn't all work every time, and it's just like the adaptability and having
It doesn't always work all the time.
It doesn't always work the same every time.
It doesn't always work the same for everyone, too. That's another reason why this show exists, to emphasize the fact that there's like 1,000,001 approaches to your work in this industry, and no one path is the same, and that's great.
Yeah. And you think I know something that's kind of funny, too. It's the same as when you make something and you get to just have the experience, leave it behind, and let everybody have their experience with it, and it's not yours anymore. In the best possible way. And the way it can be interpreted is like you just realize that you contributed something and someone else contributed something and this thing's happening. And then what's actually happening is greater than the sum of its parts. And like even what you think is the takeaway from this or anything is like all that's important is like if it's helping somebody have an experience of their own, there's nothing to do with us. That's all like a bigger, grander thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Right there is why I love this business and all storytelling, but obviously I'm especially obsessed with screen storytelling.
Yeah.
So now into the very beginnings of Walking Dead. I'm not sure how much you really remember this, but do you remember what your headspace was like going into that first audition? I guess like what kind of goals you set for yourself in terms of playing the character, but also making sure that you stood out in what I imagine was like a high pressure situation.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. So headspace going to doing that audition. I don't remember what other auditions were around that time, but I remember doing one and having had the advice sometime before that. I'd been in LA and they were like, throw your page. It was another actor. They were like, throw your pages away on the way out of the room.
Just
and
heard
you'll be
that
so
from
lucky if
someone
you need
else.
to. Yeah. Oh, really?
Literally, it was casually at like a party, but
Yeah.
it was a mother working with her kids who are building careers, and she's like, we get rid of our pages after.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
I like that.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good because it's like a friend of mine has a daughter who's like just starting in this, and her daughter loves it, and she's supporting her, and it's not, she's not pushing it in any way, and it's like, and I think, okay, if I had kids and they wanted to do it, how would you approach it? And then look at the little child in all of us who are like, you put yourself out there, you're vulnerable, whatever, and you're like, okay, cool. So I have to go in with no expectation, but I get to stay open. I get to stay vulnerable. I get to move as slowly as I need to through this experience to keep it present, and come what may, and listen more than you talk, which is why the irony of like, I want to ask you, every time you bring up something, I want to ask you something about it, and then and then let it go. And that's the life's like journey.
It's the biggest lesson I ever learned in this scene.
Yeah.
Just like, listen, like you can prep. I prep. I prep like too much. I prep.
Yeah.
But
I relate.
hitting the moment where I realized the value in listening over sticking to what I had changed the game. It changed the game for like the quality of the interviews, but also my head and how much I enjoyed it. Yeah. I love that. All right. So you go through the audition. You book the role. This is one of my favorite questions to ask lately. Another actor described it this way. I don't know if you have the exact experience, but she was telling me one of the coolest things when you start a TV show is at first you're on unstable ground. You don't quite know who your character is, but then you do that thing and you're like, I have just found who they are. Did you have that with Maggie at the beginning? And if so, when?
I had an experience in doing the audition where I read the sides and she was so clear. It was like very, very sharp. And she was different to me. And I felt like and she was different to things I'd seen on screen and characters that I'd seen. And I felt like, ooh. I just felt like there was something in her, like a grab life, and ironically comes in on this horse, but grab life by the reins, and like a freedom and a toughness and a tomboyishness, and but also like a positive. Just there was an optimism that I related to, and anyway, so I went and when I did the role, and I felt excited for how sharp of a character she was, how clear, and as the time with her unfolded, and the opportunity for the vulnerable, and the somebody like moved from their comfort zone, and what that got to show in Maggie, and then also like how things went and how that informed the writing of the character and the stuff we got to do. I was like, then I think we found her, and we found where she could go, and then it all affects each other, and it's interesting, and you're part of an ensemble. And it goes for so long that there's so many influences on characters that like defining their point of view or their trajectory. And I don't even mean for me as an actor. I mean like for writers. I always think like, how do you keep everybody so delineated? Like, how do you know I understand their voice, I'll write for their voice. So that even as Maggie has evolved, those questions remain, and that it's fascinating to me.
Looking at later scenes, is there any particular one you remember that I guess like reshaped her in a way where you knew from that point on? I mean, I guess I might be veering towards a very specific scene that has completely changed her arc in the main series and now defines it in Dead City.
It's an interesting thing because that scene is like the level of emotion that Maggie operated at once we started to see her experience loss it was like coming back from that. The show is at a high level of intensity, and it's made me crave. Actually, I'm like, wow, we've slowly ratcheted it up to a place where normal feels like nothing's happening, and I was like, that's how it feels for these characters. They are so traumatized that it's like commands, war, battle, survival, do this, and the feelings of loss and having no control or whatever it is, rage, and I forgot your question. That's okay.
The scene that redefined her.
Yeah,
the
the scene that redefined her. Yeah, the scene that redefined her was definitely, I don't know, there was just like no going back from that. And in so many ways, it's like even now, like as we shot season 2 and as we talk about the possibilities for where to go from here, one of the main tenets is who can she be now? If we were to say like, stop thinking about her in conjunction. Okay, so we knew her as we knew her as Hershel's daughter. We knew her as Maggie and Glenn and their partnership, and then how the loss of that partnership affected her, and then protecting her child, and then being enraged by Negan, and then going through all these stories. And something interesting now is like a mother needing to loosen control on her teenage child when that's her entire identity is wrapped up in it. Now, ironically, year 15, all right, who is she? And I think that that's something that we all go through. Is like, are we defined by our purpose, by who we protect, by all these things? And then the luxury of anybody, not in the show, but of anybody to say like, you know, who am I, and is it indulgent to wonder what my purpose is? It's not even what I really mean. Is it? Yeah.
It's kind of, I mean, it's relatable though.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what, I always love when people talk about coming of age stories in particular, because they apply it to teen coming of age. But you come of age at so many different points in your life. So like that's one part, but also, you know, whatever your top priority is, whether it's a career or a child, like the fact that that one thing defines you, I think is something that a lot of people wrestle with.
Yeah, because it's also like purpose is great. I don't need to know who I am when I'm just like floating through space. You know what I mean? I need to know who I am in relation to stimuli, because that's, and then who I am when not in relation to it is just to be at one with it's so hippy-dippy about it, but to just be, and to be good with just being. And when called to whatever you need to be doing, you show up in the way that's most helpful, most useful, most present. And that's good purpose. So maybe Maggie's going to have a story like that. Who knows? I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, you've been doing this for so long with the same character. I do feel like putting the priorities on things like that, I have to imagine at least, is what keeps it fresh. Actually, I'll throw this question your way. Over all of these years, actually, this is the part where I could reference Yvonne, because she the specific thing she said when we were talking about her entire run on Handmaid's Tale is she said, it's been incredible to have been on a show for this long and never once be bored. Whether it was story or even just getting a routine with doing the same show for so long, did you ever run the risk of feeling bored? And if so, how did you reinvigorate the experience for yourself?
I think that it's so, and you know when you said so at the beginning when you were asking about like the normal things that you need to try to emulate, like you're sneezing and being surprised, everything like this. But sometimes I think about like, how do we make it simpler? How do you make it simpler? Because we've done complex and big and large emotions and large events. And the thing that compels me most in this story, where I'm so grateful that we're still telling it, is like, how do we now get very small? And how do you find the simplicity? And that's something for me as an actor. And that's something in the story. And like, obviously we've had many, many moments of like simplicity captured, but it's a driving force for me. It's like it's such a great North Star because letting things go and like letting them just reveal is the thing that sustains it for me. And it's like as long as story changes and look, this relationship that she gets to have, both like in these later seasons depicting a mother of a fully formed human, you know, like the actor who plays my son, Logan Kim, he's really, really good. And it's so fun that now Hershel is his own person. And so it's a deep relationship, and I have a deep relationship with Negan, and I just get excited about finding all the real things that we get to bring to this heightened world of that show.
Oh, I have a couple specific questions about those relationships. Before I get there, though, this is one particular question I did want to make a point to ask, because we're on Ladies' Night, and a big thing with this show is just making sure women have the platform and the voice in this industry that they need. And the particular thing I wanted to ask you about was what happened after season 8. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of these details, but at that point, you fulfill your series regular contract, and then you negotiate for a raise, which is par for the course. That is how this industry works.
Yep.
You get turned down for that raise, but you don't just give in. You stand your ground, and you do some other things, and you're on the show in a different capacity until you return as a series regular in season 11. So I guess the big question I have is, what is it like finding the courage in yourself and your voice to stand your ground on that matter?
Yeah, it was such a great time. That time, it's weird because there's plenty of things. There's sometimes like ways I'll like let things slide, or I'll laugh along with something even now, and I'm like, why'd you do that? That's like, that wasn't cool. And you don't want to rock. It's not even I don't want to rock the boat. I just like, I don't want to fucking give it the time of day. Like I just want to, and I think a lot of the time it's picking your battles in moments that are not consequential. Okay. But for some reason I was not afraid and not uncomfortable in that at all, because I knew what I had given to the show, and I was at a point where I was like, this is absurd. And my contract was up, and I think everybody just thought, oh, no, it's fine. She'll come back, or she'll stay, or whatever. And I thought, no, I am going to go and see what happens. And it was also like, for me, I'd had success before The Walking Dead, but this had definitely put me on the map, and in a show that was something my peers watched, and that was I felt really, really proud to do this show. And yet, you don't know if you matter outside of your show. So there was definitely a risk for me in saying, I hope I matter outside of this show, and I'm only going to know if I go and see. And when I left the show, because we were at an impasse, I got 13 offers to lead my own show. And I don't say that like to gloat. I just say that like it gave me faith. And there will always be undulations in popularity or reasons and that you do and don't get jobs. And I experience that all the time. But it was a great moment because I went and I met so many amazing creators and producers and writers that I was so excited to go do stuff with, and I felt so invigorated. It was twofold too, because I knew I'd done this show for a long time, and I knew it was healthy for me to go do something else. And then when I went back, it was because it was healthy for me to go back at that moment. And when I went to do Whiskey Cavalier, which was such an incredible experience, and so sad that show didn't get to go for longer. I had talked to Angela Kang, who was our showrunner on Walking Dead in those years, and she was like, okay, how do we make this work to if you shoot that show, you come back part-time and do this thing. And then Angela was also really encouraging and supportive of me directing. She was one of the first people that was really supportive of that. And I don't know, it was a really good shift. And I think that I sort of sometimes like just sort of like quietly go through things, and then there's a moment and I'm like, where am I going to do? Am I going to meet the moment? And I don't do that unless it's time or whatever. It was time. And so that was a good experience on that show that was not about the show at all. It was about my relationship with myself. Yeah, felt good.
I'm glad that served you well, but I hope you know that you doing something like that on
Yeah.
what is one of the most popular shows of all time definitely has a ripple effect and sinks in with others and probably puts them in a place where they feel like they could stand up for themselves. So it's very, very important. I've so many follow-up questions.
Okay, good.
So you just brought up that she supported you with directing, but leaning into Dead City now, the first thing I wanted to talk about was your role as an executive producer on that. First, what did it mean to you to get that credit on this show? And at the beginning, what were some goals you had for how you wanted to use it?
I had, in my time between Walking Dead, I had, when I was coming back, I had experiences where I had opportunities to do shows and not be an EP, but to have the responsibility and the workload. And it's interesting because when I look back on it now, I'm like, I don't know at that moment. I don't know what it means to be a producer. I don't know the workload. I don't know the responsibility. I don't know. There's on The Walking Dead, there's a huge cost, right? And there's a freedom in it too. And like now that I am producing, I look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, you don't have to think about it. It's not your job.
I was wondering if that's why you didn't use your on-set vices this time around.
It was. But yeah, so I'd had sort of like I had thought to myself then, like, if I go do something else, especially if I go do something else, I'm going to go in as a producer and to me, it wasn't actually, a lot of people I think like want the credit and I wanted the education. And I have such a freaking love for how many ways you can move and learn in this industry. Music, cinematography, lighting, camera work. It's like, and everybody's there because they love the thing, and then they do a different thing in the thing because they love the thing. And I feel like it's one of the most awesome things ever. And it's just, I'm gonna go off so excited. So anyway, but when we came to do the show, I was like, okay, cool, you want to do a spinoff, but I'm going to executive produce the spinoff. I'm going to be involved in that way. And then I said, I'm going to do it and Jeffrey's going to do it. And you're going to pay us both this much money and it's going to be the same. So it felt like I wanted to go in with him as my teammate and my partner. And I wanted to be like, we are people that know these roles and we're empowered and we're on the level with you guys. And so it was a really, really, really good feeling. And we got to just sort of discuss different directions the show could be in and could go in. And it was the beginning of something that was just sort of like has over these 3 years that we've been doing these 2 seasons, gradually it opens. It's so never done. It's so just like a little crack. And then, there's another library. Let me go read those books, and and it's just, it never stops. And then, yeah.
I want to go straight from there to you directing. But before I do that and semi-spoil episode 6, a couple of little beats that I wanted to touch on, especially because you emphasized earlier like the idea of like stripping things down and keeping them simple. And this is a question that I had jotted down from episode 1 that I loved because I'm obsessed with a loaded reaction shot. I know like dialogue can be hard to deliver, but I feel like it's also one of the biggest challenges to say so much when you don't say anything at all. And the particular conversation I had pinpointed was the one with Pearlie, in particular when he's insisting that she come with him and she threatens him and says, if I'm treaty bound, then it would be my duty to inform your superiors what really happened to Negan. Then we get this big old beat of silence before you basically say, if I come to the island. Like, what is it like filling that silence up? Because it feels so clear to me why she makes that decision, and that just excites me.
It's really funny that you're asking that. I love that because I remember it. I'm like glad that you're and you don't remember so many bits and pieces, but it's not going to get her what she wants. And the moment of like, I could stick this, it's not stick it to you, but pretty much. And then yet, is this going to get me what I really need? And that scene with Gaius, it was just like, I don't know. There was again a real clarity for where Maggie was at the top of season 2, and and in that scene in particular, we really get to lay out the themes of the season, where these two people are at, his need for, it's weird, it's like his fascination with law and order, and yet the hypocrisy of it, and Maggie sees it, and they're so similar, those two, but it's that moment of like, you just want to shake him. Aside from all that, though, yeah, it was, I think being alive and knowing what you would say, whether or not you get to say it, is the best piece of advice that I've had, and that acting is reacting. But more than anything, in the scene and in so many moments, it's like, it's refreshing as she's matured as a character and as I've matured as an actor to know there is so much going on, and it doesn't all have to be said, and because that's life, it doesn't all get to be said. Kim Coates, who plays Bruegel this year on the show, has a moment
So
in our
good.
pilot. It freaking lights me up. He is just his eyes, what he's doing, and just the stillness.
Mm-hmm.
Stillness is a hard thing for me. It's a very hard thing for me. And I think that when I see it, especially with actors who are so experienced and have been doing this a really long time, I just like am so nourished and inspired, because I have a hard time. It's in life too. It's like a little fidget, and I notice it in my work, and so when I get scenes, or I get it, and I know how to lock in and sit in the sticky mess of it, I feel like I'm growing, and I'm grateful, moment upon moment, year upon year, of the chance to keep growing.
Mm. Oh, that's such a good answer. And like, I was thinking as you were explaining that scene, and then there's also the conversation she has with Hershel after. It's just like, it sets such like a good, clear foundation for what is to come the rest of the season. I'll veer from a quieter moment to something a little wilder, because I love Jurassic Park, and there's a particular scene in episode 3 that reminds me a whole lot of The Lost World. It's the tall grass.
Yes, it was
Can
totally.
you tell me a little bit about filming that? Is something like that, I don't know, I guess as scary and chaotic and random on set as it feels for us as viewers?
Yeah, it was definitely the inspiration, and it was like,
I love that.
I know, and just thinking back to those movies and like those scares, and trying to recreate it, not recreate it, but emulate and whatever. That was such a funny episode, because there's so much talking and planning about how to, were we planting the grass? How tall is this grass going to grow? We had to change when we shot that episode, because the location that we used as Central Park was not in bloom yet, and it was still too cold, and so you are on the fly adapting. Our production designer is adapting so quickly to how we're going to get this done. But anyway, yeah. So the idea there was the claustrophobia of just not knowing where they were going to come from. It's so fun, because you just get to like, we're in a new city, we're doing this thing, but you're also like trying to find new ways to scare constantly, and something It
overjoys me that you all actually thought about The Lost World.
Yeah.
I love that. I love seeing when new shows and films pay homage to my favorites, and that's one of my favorite Jurassic scenes of all time.
What was the other? There was another one. I didn't make it into the show, but I'm trying to remember what scene we were.
A Jurassic reference?
Yes. Maybe you did make it into the show. It was when. Which Jurassic Park is it in, when they're in the kitchen?
Oh, you're asking the right person.
Coming.
That's the first one.
It was the first one. I think it was even in. It wasn't. Anyway, I'll remember.
I could talk about Jurassic references in movies all day long.
Okay.
a scene partner question that I kind of just wanted to ask you, because I thought Dascha did a really great job this season. I was just very impressed by how little time we get to spend with that character, but like how clear her motivations and intentions are, and how she essentially rocks everyone's world around her. So can you tell me a little bit about going toe-to-toe, and maybe if working with her brought anything new out of Maggie that you didn't expect?
I fucking love that woman. She's like, we were together this week for press in New York, and it was really nice to see her. And
everything she's in.
I know.
Something else.
I know. And it's the exact thing that you're saying. It's like what I learned from her is like what I love in what she does, and what I learned from her is like she knows that character. It's so clear to her, and she's unwavering. It's like I think I always suffer a little bit from wanting, like when I did Supernatural and she's like a naughty character. What's the word I'm looking? Anyway, an evil, whatever, nemesis. I was like, oh, but I still wanted to be likable. And then it was only later that I learned, like, you do a good job and you do it right, and that's what we want. That's what we need. And Dascha has she's like a crystal river. She's so clear in her intention, and she has such a sense of fun with it. And she came on and she was like, one of the first days she got there, she's like, I think Narvaez has a gold tooth. And it was like, of course she freaking does. Of course she does. Like it was just like, she's really, really, she's so instinctive, and she's so fun to go toe to toe with. I don't know. She just has so much fun with it. She's she's just a beautiful person.
That authority leaps off. And I love how quickly I clocked the gold tooth also. And just like, you don't really think about this, but you could feel how that fills out a character in their world.
Yep.
All right. From there, I'm going to go into episode. I'm so excited to ask you about episode 6. I'm so happy that you got behind the lens of the show. I got a couple questions. First, when you decide you want to direct and you get the opportunity, what is it like pinpointing the right episode for you to direct?
So, episode 6 was my favorite episode in reading this season. And the way we worked out the schedule, it was like we knew we were going to have 3 directing spots. It was maybe actually even going to be 2 directing spots. And Mike Satrazimas did the first 2, and he's our producing director. We're going to have someone come in for the middle, and then Mike was going to do the end. So when I asked to direct this season, we said I had to work it out in a way where, because we block shot, I had to share a block with somebody who was there the whole time, which was Michael. So he did the last 3 so that I could have one of those. This is maybe too deep of a detail.
It's an important thing to clarify, because that is part of it. Like, the creative is top priority, but scheduling and all that is vital.
And it saved us a lot of money to shoot this way, because we'd get everything done in one location. We shot massively out of order this year. But anyway, so the fact that I got episode 6 was because the production logistics were right, and it felt it was so lucky because it was my favorite episode. But would I maybe have gotten that episode as a first-time director when it has the bear in it, when it's a huge episode? I don't know. But the fact that it delivers on emotional, logistical, action, technical, VFX. There's so many aspects in the episode. I was so moved by it. I was just my greatest responsibility. Whatever episode I would have had, I would have felt this, but was just like, what do I love about it? How do I take that spark and just put it over there and don't interrupt that feeling? You know what I mean? It was just like, how do I just like gently hand it to the viewer? And it was such an amazing, it was such a hard experience in so many ways. But
knowing you directed it, I was so excited when I got to watch that screener, and it was like she got to direct like this big thing and then this big thing and then this big thing. I'm going to get into scene specifics in a quick second, but I'm also really curious about, I guess I'll hit this from the production aspect and then from the character. But as someone who has been working on Walking Dead for so long, is there anything about working on it in a different capacity that surprised you about the production process?
Yes. I'd shadowed before, and when I said to you before, chatting is like my on-set vice. I always know my crew really well, and I love getting into what they're doing, and I just I'm a nerd. I'm just you're making cool shit everywhere. And so when we were directing the first part that was so much fun was doing the tone meeting, because the writer is there with all the department heads saying, this is what we're doing with this episode. This is when we came up with this episode. This is what we wanted to say. And this is sort of like the subtext in the scene. And people feel that and know that, but it's these beautiful sessions where we get all on the same page. And it reminds you of the Edinburgh Fringe, of us saying, like, in this tiny little group of like 6 to 12 people, okay, how do we do it? And it's got just such a nascent innocence, and you feel anything's possible, and then you're like, and great, we've actually got the money to do, not that we have like so much money on this show, but we've actually got the means to do cool stuff. And so anyway, that's like the first part that was like a delight. And I learned that actually from shadowing directors. I learned how much time you get to spend with your DP. I mean, it's you and your DP like this, and you read the script, you're just deeply, just the way that I would have done as an actor. You read it, you break it down, and I felt so bonded to everybody, because I was like, we're all doing the same thing. Wow, this whole time we've all been doing the same thing. And like, you feel kind of alone in your preparation as an actor. You can run your lines and you can rehearse, and you don't get rehearsal though. You don't get time with your scene partners, and you don't get sort of like you get a lot of good. So don't get me wrong. But again, you get a lot of creative time and fun. But yeah, the thing that it's been such a beauty of producing and directing is that that coming together in the mind meld. And you're just, I don't know. I'm there. I'm doing the thing again where I'm just like, it's playing for me like on a movie screen in my mind. And
I could feel it, honestly. It's like yet another reason why I love this industry so much is that every single movie and show that I watch is a team effort. And the more I could feel it, the more I think about it, just, I don't know, the prouder it makes me to be a small part of it. Yeah. Because that's the coolest thing ever.
So true. It's so true. And you think like, when I directed the episode, I just thought like, I know so little. I know the things I know, and I'm not gonna act like I know something. I can't. It's gonna hurt everything and everyone. And it felt really good, because I think so often in life you're supposed to sort of like project confidence, and what's the most confident thing you can do is say, "Can you explain that to me? I don't understand. I want to do a good job with this." And it's really renewing to realize that you get to stay curious and open, and you will, the more you learn, the more you'll learn how to learn, or something.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
And like, once you think you've learned enough, you realize that's not true, and you've got more to learn.
Yeah.
On every project and every role you take on.
Mm-hmm.
I've kept you too long. I got 3 more questions.
Okay.
Unless you're in
No, you're
rush.
good. You
okay.
Yeah.
So that was from the production side. I want to hit it from the character side now, too, because you have been playing this character for so many years, and all of a sudden you get the opportunity to work on her and see her from a different vantage point.
Yeah.
What new did you find in Maggie by essentially directing yourself?
I feel now, after the season, after producing more, being involved more as a producer and being involved as a director, I feel a bird's eye perspective on her and the show that I never had before. And I feel like, and largely that's just because of spending more time with the writers as well, and just being like, when I saw how they construct a story, and I'm like, oh yeah, I just do that in reverse. I take this like, I take the layers and I peel them back to find the little nugget, and you guys take the nugget and you get to hide it under all these beautiful things that we feel and find. And so as it pertains to the character, and as it pertains to the character when directing myself, it was handy. Handy? It was like, some of like in the bigger action sequences, we were storyboarding, and then I thought, I'm going to storyboard this whole episode. And you were talking when we first sat down about over preparing, and it's you cannot be too prepared.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot in life. You got to you get to think through scenarios, and one of them will happen or not, or something completely different. But anyway, so, but you're prepared. But anyway, so I was just to prepare that and to direct myself was really, it's just, they're very different lanes. Losing yourself in performance and being pragmatic. But the best thing was that I'd do it differently next time. Maybe the best thing is learning what I liked and didn't. But anyway, I went into the process and storyboarded a lot of the episode to know what I would do with camera, because that was the thing I knew the least about. And then I just rehearsed, and the actors that were available to rehearse on their time off came down, and everybody was so supportive, you can imagine. And so we did that, and then we got into the episode, and the scene where I direct myself when it's me and the bear is, oh my God, it was like, I sweat so much that day.
It's a big, big sequence.
Yeah.
That might be the answer to this question. When you gear up to film your episode, which scene do you think is going to be the biggest challenge for you to pull off? And ultimately, was that scene the toughest, or did a different one in the episode catch you by surprise?
The scene that was the toughest for me was directing Jeffrey and Željko.
I was hoping you would reference that scene at some point.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And because oh my gosh, how do you direct someone who's like so amazing? And both with Jeffrey and with Željko, but I know Jeffrey better. And it was like, and I just felt like, Lauren, don't get in your own way here. Like my adoration and respect was almost like the thing that hindered me, because I just felt nervous. I was just so nervous. And I was nervous directing Kim because I didn't know Kim as well, and I have so much respect for him as an actor. And I have my one smaller scene that I have with Dascha within the episode 6. But yeah, that was the hardest part. It was like, I knew for me doing the action stuff, I knew I could rely on myself to do that. And it was hard to go between like the logistics. The technical stuff is, is hard. The geography of where the bear was going to be. But God, no, that was, you don't want to say too much. The most important thing to me going into directing the episode was creating an environment that everybody could do their best. And namely, I thought about the younger actors and like, the protective like place, like go whatever your process, like you have space to concentrate. And I felt like I didn't want to move anything and because I like that. I appreciate that. I appreciate when people don't say too much, because there's a telepathy, and somebody can go a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I feel, oh man, it was great experience.
Really, really something else. I'm so impressed. Maybe directing could be the answer to the final question on Ladies' Night. We end every single interview with this question. Film and television, we give each other awards. That's great. We should keep on doing that. I find that nobody tells themselves good job as much as they should. I want to know something you accomplished making Dead City Season 2 that you'll always look back on and say, you know what? I'm really proud of what I did there.
Oh, that's really funny, because I said this to somebody the other day. I was like, stop right now and just acknowledge that, just be here right now. Just acknowledge that, acknowledge that you're proud. You asking the question, I think, was the thing. It just happened just then. It's just like, don't let it all go by. Like, celebrate it right now. And I got to the end of doing that episode and I was like, I don't even know if is there going to be, I didn't even know if there'd be a product of an episode at the end of it, because the experience had been such a reward. And I hope it's a reward for people who watch it too, because it was just, yeah.
I've got very high hopes it will be.
Yeah.
And I've got high hopes if you want more opportunities like that.
Yeah.
I feel like you could tell, at least from my limited vantage point when I watch an episode like that. There's not just a clarity that comes from an understanding of the whole world of The Walking Dead that you've been a part of thus far, but you could feel when someone's eye is working the way it needs to in order to direct, and also when someone has that kind of vibe with actors, because there's a lot of standout performance beats, and again, it's a collaboration.
Yes, very much, very much. And you're so lucky. It's hard to direct television, but you're set up to have the best experience because it's a rolling production. It's got amazing talent, and the actors were like, you'd never dream of being able to work with everybody that we have on that show for a first time, and it was really a gift.
Something special. You should be very proud of it.
Yeah.
I could have kept you here all day. I
know.
like we barely
this
even
isn't a 5-hour thing. I'm so sorry.
We barely even scratched the surface of all the questions. Again, over-prepared, but that just means you have to come back. So I'm going to say congratulations on everything you've accomplished on The Walking Dead Dead City Season 2 and everything coming your way in the future.
Thank you.
Hurry up. Come back.
Thank you. Thanks, Carrie. It was good to be here.